What's up, everyone? Donwin, BlueFirePoker.com. Today I'm going to be doing a live commentary. The last video in the Climbing the PLO ladder series, and um, it was going to be at like 1-2 and just 1-2, but there were no open tables, and really didn't feel like waiting around, so I'm going to go ahead and do a mix of 1-2 and 2-4 here. And 2-4, I believe, plays more difficult. I haven't played 1-2 regularly for over a year now, and I've been playing like quite a bit of the 2-4 games. But when I first started playing and moving up between the limits, I thought the 2-4 games were just a lot more aggressive, a lot more three betting in position, a lot more three betting overall, and fighting for the um, fighting for all the pots and stuff. So I mean, it doesn't get as easy. Barbara 52 outs, somewhat familiar. I think I've played with this player quite a bit. Flop the nuts and bet, pretty easy. I don't really want to slow play there very often, actually, mainly because I want to be betting that board with air, and if too many of my combos of nuts right there are checked, then my range is too weak overall. Don't have to worry about that too much against players you don't play against very often, but against players you play against, often, they're going to possibly be able to figure that out and play decently against you. In position here, JC turn checks, possibly to check call, and if he does, then I can consider barreling. But it's a board that he's going to be folding a lot, and I have ace high, so that's not going to be that great. And as I have done with the live videos in the past, I'll go ahead and check out hands while I'm waiting. So standard 3-bet, and he decides to get it in here with what looks to be a wrap. No, that's just a pair and straight draw. It's fairly reasonable. Sir scoops a lot and don't know about his 3-betting range, but spot where people just bet fold a lot because they bet 100% of their hands because they think their 3-betting range is just so ace heavy. So he can get away with jamming there when he gets it in, like if he's facing an ace with a flush draw or something, or 2-pair and a gutter, then he's going to be in really bad shape. But I think he has enough fold equity there to make it okay. Although I wouldn't be like thrilled with it. In my opinion, I'd usually just be calling there in position against the other player, because a lot of times the other player just checks on the turn, intending to check fold. So we get extra information, get to see free cards, and overall, I mean, just plays decently. I'll go ahead and leave all the lists. Actually, let me just take a look at this and see if I want to replace one of the 2-4 tables with it. I'll just stay at the short-handed table. Whoops. And leave all the waitlist. Used to open these hands like a lot, like queen 7-8 deuce suited from the cutoff, and open a similar hand on the top left, but just don't think it's going to be super profitable. People are 3-betting a lot these days from like button and blinds when you open late position. And having like junky hands like that calling 3-bets is, I think, going to be a small leak. So rather just avoid that and make the open fold. And even if it is profitable, it's just barely profitable and just kind of a high variance type hand. So opt to just fold that and play. Fairly straightforward. Ace is a good card for me because it hits quite a bit of my range as the preflop raiser. In addition to that, he might be folding like 6 deuce, king deuce occasionally in the spot. So getting him to fold 2-pair, or even if he called with ace 5 4x with gutter and backdoors, and getting him to fold an ace there is obviously good. Well, inside wrap in the bottom left, so it's not a great hand. Actually, just a 9-out draw. Now it's a great hand, and um, I could check to check call there, or possibly check raise because it's not that great. And don't. I mean, I do call there when I am raised, but I'm not super happy about it. So checking is viable because it might be a hand I should be check folding. Well, anyway, the difference between the 50-cent $1 games and the $1 $2 games, um, it the aggression just increases and increases, and, it gets higher and higher. Um, a lot of people at the 2-4 will just rely solely on aggression and probably break even. And go on massive swings, just constantly 3-betting, 4-betting, super wide, and playing like a real pre-flop game. And I mean, while it's not like super profitable for them, it just opens up to very high variance situations um, for you as the opponent. So I mean, the games are certainly more aggressive, and to deal with that, you're gonna need um, bigger bankroll requirements because the swings will be bigger. Like at 1-2, I mean the swings are like decently big. You can lose 10, 20 buy-ins, blah blah blah, whatever. But it's a lot more likely to happen at um, 2-4. I don't think I'm getting raised here very often, unless I'm crushed. Um, some people wait with King Jack there to raise on the turn. It's reasonable. And river the nuts, and I mean my hand looks a lot like King Jack, King 3, Jack 3 sets, and the 2 of hearts completes um, a lot of his range. So I mean he could be bluffing there when he misses, and if he has just a King high and probably value betting flushes, and we'll go ahead and see what he actually did. Oh, he did have King Jack and didn't raise the turn. With the stack sizes, let me see what happened on the turn. Okay, I bet 32, and he didn't start 100 BB, so he can pot it to like 150 and get almost all the stacks in. Seems reasonable and favorable to me because I have the type of hand where I'm kind of confused on the turn, and it's like it's good for him to fold out, a flush draw with the ace out, so like a 12-out draw there. It's good for him to get called by a hand like that, and me barreling there probably quite a bit allows him to play better overall because his range will be tougher to play against if he's going to be raising on some turns. Not letting me double barrel is light, etc., etc. So, not deep. I'd rather just get it in on the turn with his actual hand. So I called and led with nut flush draw and overpair. Something where I can check raise, check call, can lead. All are fine. Uh, Given one player had already checked, he may not be c-betting his board like super light. Let's say he had King Queen XX. He'd probably be betting that, but with weak hearts, where I definitely want action on the flop and get at least one bet in, he might be checking that hand back or like a 3-4-6, etc. So leading there has a lot of merit. And it's the type of board that's semi-dry, and I kind of want to lead with bottom pair type hands, or maybe just like a 3-4-6-9 with the backdoor spades, where I don't think I check call. So it allows me to lead a decent range there if I'm going to be leading that type of hand. He checks here and have the nut gutter pair outs and backdoor flush draw. I like to take my free card there and pick up the double gutter. So pretty pleased um, with that turn card because I can certainly call with it. Actually, I have a wrap. Um, could raise here, but I mean, it just doesn't make that much sense. I'm betting most of my 10xx, so um, I'm betting most of my 10xx, so I don't have like top two very often. I occasionally have like 8-4, 8-3, but raising there just doesn't make much sense for my range when I check back. And since everything missed, I do have like air and am losing like, every time. But uh, I mean, it's a spot where he can check to check call because like everything missed, and I mean, I get called there a lot, so I don't bluff there that often. I can't never be bluffing there, but spot where I think I get called more often than not. And if I'm betting 42 into 58 there, I guess he has to be folding like 40% or something like that. And in my experience, it hasn't been the case. A lot of the hands that he'd be like check folding, one pair type hands or misdraws are leading himself. So I think a majority of his checking range um, is checking to check call or check decide and make tough decisions and probably end up calling. On the bottom left, it gets checked to me. I'm probably gonna bet, not because I think I have the best hand all the time, but when we all kind of have mediocre hands like this, I fold out two nines, two tens, probably some 6-4 and weak heart type hands, and like if it checks through God Poker or Card Master, probably leading the turn um, with air a lot, so it prevents me from getting bluffed. So it's three-handed here. Names don't seem super familiar. Possibly I played them before, but don't have like great reads on them. Whoops, accidentally min bet there. I was trying to click the table to activate it so I can scroll up. Um, Badish card for me because a lot of draws got there, but my hand can still withstand heat. And on the bottom left with the rapid um, pair, I'm obviously trying to put money in and I want to bet an amount that I can be bluffing here with, and it's definitely an amount. If I pot it, never bluffing, and this is the type of board that I want to. Cool. It's the type of board that I want to be like bluff raising small because it allows me to have a bluffing range. Like if I'm potting there, it doesn't make sense with any hand to ever be bet folding, even something like really junky because I'm just putting in way too much money. So by raising to 76, I can still be raise folding there, and I probably will be raise folding like quite a bit. And I mean, because I'm doing that, he should be jamming with aces there with the gutter, obviously, and backdoor. Cardmaster seems familiar. Pretty sure I've played this player. I think he plays 2-4-3-6 maybe. Maybe not. Uh, Fairly easy check call with top pair, net gutter, and backdoor flush draw. Um, don't really want to be leading these types of hands against an unpredictable opponent. Unpredictable being unknown here because I don't know how he reacts. Some people just lead or raise all the time, and I'll be folding, the best hand a lot. Um, I'll probably call here twice and check fold rivers, especially when the draw completes, and a lot of my check calling range twice is going to be flush draws. It's not really too much of a guessing game because it really looks like that card hit me. So I mean, I don't expect him to be bluffing there, like very often at all, because it shouldn't work. Because when I check call twice there, it should be a lot of like flush draw type hands, and I'll be calling a lot. So because of that, I very easy check fold. Just gonna check jam against the 40 BB stack here. Um, when he gets checked behind, I don't think he has like aces very often. I don't think he has kings very often. He's probably bet calling that a lot. Um, so hopefully he just had air and he'll take a stab at the turn. And if not, then I can kind of let him get there with like some straight draws that probably folding to a lead. Bottom pair and a weakish open ender. Hate to bet fold equity and hits a fair amount of his range. So would like to take the free card, see if I improve and actually hit one of the better cards for me. That wasn't a 7 or a queen. So I mean, easy bet here. If he raises, I'm just putting kind of a gross spot and kind of have to evaluate. I've played Big Easy a bit. Don't want to give any reads on him because I play him like quite a bit. So just leave it as unknown for now. Kind of gross board, but I think I just have to bet call against his stack. If he was started with 100 BB, I'd probably check that behind and hopefully get it checked through, or maybe I improve. But against his stack size, I'm just going to bet call. I could have bet smaller there, and I probably should have, because I want to be bluffing here. And when I bet 24 into 37, I'd probably not bet folding ever, so I could probably bet like 14 in there to induce a little bit. Although I don't want to induce jams from his stack size, it just makes sense for the range. With just middle pair here and no good backdoors, I mean, pretty easy fold. A lot of the time when you continue with the hand, you should think about how often the turn improves you, so you can continue, because just people will relentlessly barrel you because your check calling range on the flop is pretty weak, and I think most people's are. At a tough game, I'm probably folding ace 5-3 here because it's just garbage. Only playing for set value, basically, and not even happy to get 3-bet and 4-bet and barely have an equity advantage over a random hand. So at a tough table, I'd probably just fold that, but I feel comfortable here to go ahead and open that. And I'm just going to go ahead and bet fold here, even though he doesn't have that much money. I'm just never doing good against like 2-pair, and my hand doesn't improve like that often. So with no backdoors, I think it's just easy bet fold. Queens, kind of bad ones. I just fold here. Against the Rays, just it doesn't play that well. I'm not even happy to make many flush draws, so make my life a little bit easier. Playing queen high flush draws is pretty annoying a lot of the time, so just avoid that pre-flop. Hasn't been like too much action, but I think it's semi-standard in PLO, especially when you're playing reasonably tight, like I am. Just gonna try to isolate and get this heads up and get fold equity on flops when we both miss. Don't want to call here, let gut shut a lot, like squeeze and force me to play a mediocre hand. So I'd rather just 3-bet and see this pot heads up and flop, good but not great. But if this player raises, definitely have to go with it. A lot of times like they will have a hand that I'm doing okay against, like 10 Jack Queen with like Queen High clubs, etc. Um, but I mean, it's usually a spot where we're flipping around like 45%, but um, with the fold equity on the flop and him calling once with a weak hand like 10 Jack Queen or 10-3 or 3-2-4-5 or something like that, and folding turns, it's an automatic bet. These are hands. This is a hand that looks like a lot better than it is. It's kind of like a junky hand that makes bad two pairs and bad flush draws a lot. So like avoid those. I don't really want to double barrel here with a weak gutter. Just gonna kind of give up. Um, Not really a spot that I expect this player to check fold a lot on. Like if he had 10-9-8 queen deuce jack deuce, fairly safe card that's going to be check calling twice a lot. So without much equity, I'm just gonna give up on the hand and kind of hope I hit something on the turn, or on the river, I should say. Like to be double barreling a lot, actually. Just have to be giving up with sometimes, or um, it's actually not too bad to just always barrel when the other player check calls, because I think it works enough. Because people check raise their good hands often, but um, like to have a little bit more equity there than what I have. Like maybe King 10 would be the bottom of my range, semi bluffing range. Limp behind on the top left, kind of keep the pot small. It's not like no limit where you want to isolate all the time and get full equity, because the game doesn't really work that way. Um, People don't fold, mainly because they don't miss as often with four cards, and I mean, I think it just plays better. Like getting multi-way pots. This hand isn't great because six high flush draws aren't that good, but um, occasionally get it in and get it multi-way and play fit or fold myself on the flop, but get to make better decisions than everyone because I am in position the rest of the way. This is the type of hand I 4-bet when 3-bet in blind battles, like quite a bit. Although I'm less inclined to do so when we're playing 190 deep, because play is awful against a 5-bet, and I hate to fold this hand pre-flop. Um, so typically I just call 3-bet at this stack size deep. And I mean, he could be floating here, but so what? I have like no way to improve, and people typically don't float there at 1-2, I'd say, and could have like a straight there, queen 5, 4-5. It's just betting to protect because I have air a lot. If I knew a little bit more about him, I could sometimes check raise there, but just gonna play it just really straightforward in that spot. I'm not thrilled about it, but same reason as before. Like to just get this heads up rather than multi-way with, kind of cleans up my flush draws a bit when it gets the heads up, and again I'm in position and force that player to kind of force them to play against me. He leads right into me. Um, I mean, pretty easy call here. If we had more history, I could sometimes raise and hopefully get them to barrel off with, or monkey off with king high diamonds. Um, Given I flopped a flush in a 3-bet pot, um, just gonna call down, very likely. Although I'm not happy about the bet sizing. a bet size where it looks like he's trying to get called by, I mean, with like Jack high, Queen high flush, not really getting me a fold. And obviously, you check behind here because I'd say he's fairly polarized. Um, and he led twice with air, which I think is actually a good play because I thought his range was um, weighted a little bit stronger to like ace four that didn't want to check call, straights that didn't want to check call, and like flushes. Um, if he was trying to like barrel me off, I thought he would probably try to bet bigger rather than like if I had 3-4 there or ace three, I mean in theory should be calling that a lot more when he half pots it rather than like $100 bet or something on the turn. So semi tricky, but not sure I necessarily agree with it. Overall, these games seem okay, but not like fantastic. I usually open up any suited ace from the cutoff, and gonna do so here. Although I have been tightening up my ranges like a little bit pre-flop. Um, Big Easy, I think, has been playing reasonably tight, so this hand just doesn't do very well against his three betting range. Like if he has ace king jack 10, aces, etc., just that hand plays really bad against a tight three betting range. So I'd rather just give it up than make dumb mistakes when I flop top pair with a jack and face aces with not many outs. So give it up, easy pre-flop. And Texas Mike played it well. Um, the initial flat with aces playing deep, I think is standard and good. So he played that spot well. Big Easy, let me think about this. I like his three bet because it's deceptive and gets us to fold kings and queens on a lot of like 5-5-2 flops, etc. Um, and we stack off when we have open enders in a pair when he makes top set a lot. So and once the other player jams, I guess he just has to get it in with that stack. Okay, so it seems like a board I'm getting check jammed a lot on with just 3x pot left. Don't want that to happen when I do have my pair and open ender. Um, Now that he's checked twice, I'm just going to go ahead and bet here. It's fairly unlikely he has clubs. He's probably folding like 7-10, king 7, um, 5-7, queens up if he happens to have that type of hand by the river. So I'd like to take a shot there. And um, I imagine he's probably folding. Mm, at least half the time, probably 60% of the time, and I only need him to fold like 40 there, so good spot for me. I'm gonna go ahead and make a semi float here, only because people attack these boards just so frequently. And when I call on the flop, like my hand, I think to him should look pretty big. Didn't mean to sit out there. Should look pretty big, so I don't think he's going to be double barreling very often, and I could take a stab on the turn. I definitely want to stab here because a lot of time um, they're check raising with like flush draws, and obviously my hand doesn't want flush draws to continue, so I'm just going to go ahead and float and take a stab at it. And like if he check raises there, a lot of times it's like a boat or um, Jack X, which I didn't have great equity against. Occasionally, it does it with like ace high clubs and king queen or something like that. I guess that'd be a wrap. So I'm usually pretty crushed. So I don't want to check there and let him get there. With let's say he had king queen and like a nine or ace hit the river, and I decide to bet then, and he calls obviously, or Um, let him get there with whatever else he might have. So I think betting there is just the best play. Player bets into three other players. Try over pair. It's very, very easy fold. People just aren't going to be betting there very often. I think it just gets checked through unless they have like decent draws, two pair, etc. Um, Occasionally, could be betting to just not let it get checked through with like a one pair type hand, but my hand just never approves, so very easy fold. Take a look at the top left hand after it plays out. Pretty curious about it actually. Okay, so three bet pot, and it gets checked through. Hmm. And then Texas Mike decides to lead for 120 into 149. Like, I think he's betting all of his Queen X hands, or most of them at least, that he's three betting pre-flop. Betting aces and kings here, like always, and might be calling it off against Barber, probably folding it against like gut shot a lot. And he just doesn't have many twos in his three betting range in this spot, so I mean he doesn't rep much. So Barbara probably has a two. Um, Doubt she ever has like queens full or fours full checking behind on the flop, but um, could have like four deuce possibly, or just like a draw. I think it showed pretty big profit here because I don't think Texas Mike has a value hand here often enough to do that. If he were betting with air, I'd prefer like a 78 or $82 bet because it makes more senses with like over pairs that he decided to check for pocket trouble like aces or kings, whatever else, and gives them like a better price where people are going to be playing pretty fit or fold on that particular turn card. So um, don't think I agree with the $120 bet. Don't think it's necessary when an $80 bet does the same and plays probably more reasonably, and that makes more sense with the hands he wants to represent when he's betting that dollar amount. Don't open many hands under the gun, but I guess this is the hijack because Fantastic Fish wasn't dealt in, but it's certainly strong enough. If it was suited to the queen, I probably would fold. Suited to the king, I'd probably think about it and open and not be sure if that was right. But with the ace high suit, I think it's clearly an open. With a range on this board, since it's draw heavy, I don't want to be betting 8 into 12 and a quarter. Much rather be betting um, 10 there with my entire range um, when the board is that dry. Not happy about it, but will call in position with the suited ace, and um, I'm just gonna take a stab at it here because Texas Mike could be checking a check call sometimes, probably not check raising very often. So retain my equity with the 4 and the backdoor spades and the 3. Um, Plus, it puts some pressure on him, or pressure on him if he's raising with like 9-9-10-10 or something like that. That's a better hand than my own. When I get check raise on this board and check pot, it's easy fold. Occasionally running into a wrap that probably a favorite against my hand, um, but check potting just doesn't have bluffs uh, often enough to make any plays or make a sick call down. Big raise here. We are deep, and it's going to be pretty uncomfortable, but my hand's too strong to fold, and I expect people to be messing around enough on this board that I can continue profitably. So I'm going to start with a call, and good card for me, obviously. Um, I can always suck out if he does have um, a boat here, which is a good result for me. And this looks like it hits me a lot, so I'm semi-worried if he continues betting. It's a good bet size, actually, with a range. Because it, makes a lot of sense with boats. Um, Forces me to call, make tough decisions on the river. In addition to that, um, lets him bluff pretty cheap. So I'm going to start with a call here and figure it out on the river. The ace and 9 help me a lot because it's just a lot more unlikely that he has a boat with the 2 blockers. So could lead me to calling this river. However, it's just a spot where I don't think people are bluffing very often when it looks like I could very easily have a boat here when I call twice. Very easily have a flush like I have. So he checks behind a boat. Um, think about that for a second before I comment. But um, it's a spot where I could definitely still have boats, and when I call twice there, I never have like bluffs to float or anything fancy or some sick call down or whatever. At minimum, I have a flush, probably a decent flush, king, queen, high flush. So if he barrels there 3 times, I think it's just really strong. So might lean towards folding. Although if he's not betting all of his boat combos, then it makes it more of a call. I guess. Think about that really quick. Okay, so he raises with a 2. Obviously pretty standard. And bets on the turn. I like it because I'm not raising here unless I have a hand that crushes him. Because I mean, at minimum, again, I have a flush, and if I raise, it's usually like 9 deuce, ace deuce, or 9's full, ace is full. So he can comfortably bet fold. It's just not a spot where I'm raising very often. So I do like his bet because allows him to like not call a big bet on the river. Like let's say he checks through and I decide to bet 130 on the river, puts him like in a spot where he can control the pot size a little bit more. In addition to that, if he gets there, he can value bet more on the river because the pot will be bigger. So I like his bet on the turn, and I like his bet size and his check behind. It's good, I think, because a lot of people because he won't be bluffing here very often. A lot of people won't be calling with a flush on that on the river when he 3 barrels. So checking behind with the 6 deuce because worse than that doesn't call very often, and I can still have that beat quite easily. Makes this sophisticated, and I think good check behind. And I guess I'll play out my free hands and then call it a video. And this will be the last of the climbing the PLO ladder series, and hope you guys enjoyed it. It's good for me revisiting the lower stakes and seeing how it played actually. Um, calling mainly because don't always want to be bet three betting there. I will be floating like this occasionally, so sometimes calling, sometimes three betting. Obviously, never folding. And on the river, like he's not going to bet his 4-5 now. I don't think he has a bigger flush than me often. So I mean, obviously going to be just leading for value here. And it's a spot where I don't expect him to be calling very often actually, because I mean, really what missed? I guess I could have like 3-6 here, set of twos, pretty easily, trying to get him to fold, 4-5. But for the most part, I have 4-5 there or flush the majority of the time, so it's not a spot where he should be calling down very light. I wonder if I won during this session. Lately, I've been losing a lot during videos, but so I lost here, won 269 here, and won a little here. So booking a small win. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Don Wynn with BlueFirePoker.com.